everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Garbage Deity. I'm Grace with my brand new model that I made in the last video. I thought I would continue my quick tutorial series with yet another quick tutorial, this time on the Blender VRM exporter. When I started using it the beginning of last year, there wasn't much documentation of how to set up specific stuff like spring bones and stuff. So I kind of had to figure it out, and I think there are a few tutorials for it now, but I wanted to throw my hat into the ring and make my own tutorial. So we're going to cover blend shapes and spring bones. We'll look a little bit at collider groups and how the MToon textures, the MToon shader is all set up and stuff. So yeah, let's get into it. Blah. Here's my blender. Here's a model I made quite a while ago. She wasn't really for anything, she was just for learning, so might as well use her for learning here as well. First off, let's get our exporter into Blender. So the exporter uses an older version of Blender. I use 4.3.2. I think it's 4.2 and above, but 5.2 and above isn't supported, so all the newer ones aren't supported. Yeah, I recommend 4.3.2. I don't know why I use that one, but that's the one I use. And it works perfectly. So you just click get the add-on and you can drag and drop it into Blender. Mine is just gonna say it's already installed, but you'll install it. And then you'll go into your preferences, add-ons, and make sure your VRM format is turned on, so it'll show up in your little sidebar that shows up when you hit N. So this is the exporter. I like to leave it on VRM 0.0 because that's what the programs I use are compatible with. Let's start by adding the material real quick. I'm just gonna make it an emission really quick just to get it set up. Think of the materials. So she's all colored. And then I'm gonna turn it into the MToon unversioned. I'm pretty sure this came with the VRM add-on, but I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm really sorry, I can't remember. So yeah, we just go down to, shut those, the VRM material at the very bottom, and you enable it. You add your textures to the lit color alpha and the shade color. You can make your shade color darker or lighter, and you can change the toony shading to kind of diffuse it. Shading shift, make it darker. The additive shading in the normal map as well you can mess with. The emissions are fun. If you set up your texture right, you can have it so certain parts of your texture glows. I might do a tutorial on that in the future because I've figured out how to do that before. You can play with matte caps, which basically like turn up the rim stuff. You can turn on matte caps, so it just kind of, it looks better on higher poly models. My model is low poly, so it doesn't look great on her. But they are fun to play with and learn. The outline, you would use world coordinates. So that gave her an outline. Oh, that added the parametric rim color with the outline for some reason. That's strange. Yeah, I'll leave that on there. That's fun. Let's change the color. Make it more orangey. Yeah. You can play with UV animation, which just moves the texture along a certain axis or it rotates it. If you have one big texture for your model like I do, you can't really do that. You'll have to make separate textures for the things that you want to be moving to make sure they're all in their own texture. That way it's not like translating up. Let me see if I can. Yeah, see how it translates badly? You don't want to do that when you have one texture for everything. Anywho, let's go to our shape keys. Let's look at these real quick. So I have all my shape keys already made. I'm going to assume you do too. So that includes your mouth shapes, your blinks. I separate my blinks into left and right. You can have expressions. I only made one. And then your eye movement directions. So we're going to punch these into the blend shape proxy. Actually, I'm going to go over this exporter real quick and all its different things. The meta is just that. It's just the meta. It's the title. You can put your author name and any like rules, basically. The humanoid, you don't need to mess with if you used the skeleton that comes with the VRM exporter. So you can create a VRM model and that'll summon a new skeleton. And I like to use that skeleton when I'm making the bones for my model. That way you don't have to mess with any of this humanoid stuff. Everything's already punched in. One thing about exporting as a VRM is make sure it is in T-pose. I think it's supposed to be in T-pose by default. I'm not sure if it would mess stuff up if you made an A-pose, but that's what the skeleton in the exporter is in T-pose, so I make all my models in T-pose. So anyway, blend shape proxies. How you do put the blend shape proxies in the exporter is you just click on the one you want. It'll have a list of all the ones you need, or, well, if you don't want the character to blink, I guess it's optional. And if you don't want emotions, those are optional. But if you do want them to talk and blink, you do have to put these in. So A, you just make a new bind, click on where it is, and add it, and add the shape key. You can preview it so you can see the mouth moving. You can make it binary so it just snaps into place if you want a more snappy, what is the word? Not quite cartoony, but you know, more robotic looking look. You would use the binary, or at least I use the binary when I have drawn on textures, which I have in my other tutorial. Show you how to set up drawn on textures and swap them around. So we'll just punch all these in. For the blink, you'll put the left and the right blend shape in there, so it just has one blink. Look up. Oh, I put that in the wrong one. Look up. Look down. And look right. and then blink L, and blink R. And then you can add your own blend shapes as well by pressing this button and naming it. And then once you're in your program, you'll just have to assign that one to like a specific toggle or specific like expressions to trigger. But we don't need to make a new one. We'll just use the ones that it gives us. The neutral, just leave that empty. It's neutral. Your face should be in a neutral pose by default. You shouldn't have your mouth open. You shouldn't have, if you don't want like a big smile as your default neutral face, don't model your character with a big smile. You'll put that in like, I don't know, joy or something. As a separate blend shape. But yeah, for neutral, just have it how you want your resting face to be. If you put in a bind and say like, my angry is my neutral, it'll be all wonky. It'll be weird. Just leave neutral blank. So first person, you don't need to mess with. Your bone, your head bone will already be there if you use the skeleton. And yeah, you don't need to mess with that. So spring bones, we're gonna, let me click on the bones, please. Click on the armature, please. And then we'll go into pose mode real quick. So to do your spring bones, you'll add a spring bone group. I don't add a center bone because I usually get rid of my root bone. But yeah, you just select every bone that you want to be in that group. And I like to separate my spring bone groups by sections. So like, for example, these front hairs and this ponytail, those are going to be separate spring bone groups. So let's do the ponytail. And then we're going to do our stiffness and our drag force, which are very, very important. If you don't do stiffness and drag force, your hair will float all over and clip and be weird. So you need at least a little bit. And it takes some fiddling, it takes some back and forth to get it just right, but for now we're just gonna do random numbers and it'll be fine, it'll move. So let's add a collider group real quick for this front hair so it doesn't clip into our chest. To do that, under spring bones, there's collider groups. You add a group, you select the bone you want the collider to be attached to, and you add a collider. I'm gonna go add a pose mode, and then I select the collider, and I just kind of squash it and stretch it until it's about the size that I want it to be. And you can move it too. So I just want it to be in the chest area. So we're going to connect it to our front hair. Under the spring bone group for the front hair, there's a collider group box where you just add the collider we just made. Chest, random string of numbers. And so ideally the front hairs won't clip through wherever this collider is. And let's see, I think that's it for exporting. I think we're ready. We can check our for VRM model. It says no errors. We're all ready to export. Let's export it real quick. And then let's see, let me open that up in Vignon so I can show you what it looks like. I forgot to do something. So, very important when you're doing your your materials, don't forget to set it to a pick, because I forgot to set it to a pick. It was transparent and it looked bad. So re-exported that. Okay. The shadows are a little wonky, but let's look at this. Shadows are a little weird right now. But we move, we blink, our eyes move, our mouth moves, and our hair wiggles. This actually doesn't look too bad. The parametric rim is a little interesting. It doesn't look great on low poly models, like I said, so if you make high poly models, I recommend using that for some extra oomph. And the shadow also looks a little weird, I think, how I have it set up, but that just takes a little fiddling with to get just right, which I'm sure you guys can do. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. I love you.